Yo, what's good, YouTube? Steel Bear Sports here, and we're gonna talk about it. So that Steelers game last night was less than desirable. It was probably one of the worst games I've seen out of the Steelers in quite some time. Been a fan of the Steelers since I was like a little kid, and last night was just not the kind of game that we want to have as Steelers fans, especially after starting off the season 11-0. But I think people are getting mad at the wrong things when it comes to this team, and it's really like pissing me off. And you can agree with me, disagree with me, like whatever, but at least fucking hear me out on it, because I see a lot of like stuff on Twitter and just the internet in general complaining about the Steelers and like the way things are, and it just doesn't make sense to me where people are turning their anger to. So, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to discuss it and kind of unpack what I think my issues are with the Steelers this season, and especially over the course of the last 3 games, because the last 3 games have been less than desirable by any means. So, without further ado, let's go. So, I want to go ahead and address the elephant in the room, like, right away, because it's the one that eats at me the most when it comes to discussing this fucking team. And it's the fact that a lot of people want to try to shift the blame to Juju and say, it's Juju's fault we're not winning games. It's Juju's fault that we're not getting production on offense. But if you look at Juju's stats this season, he's only had 3 games this season where he's had below a 70% on his completion percentage on targets. So that makes Juju one of our most consistent receiving options on the offense this year. When we have guys like Ebron and Deontay Johnson that have had issues with drops all throughout the year, and it's been extremely prominent in the last couple of weeks, where his worst games of the season were yesterday against the Cincinnati Bengals and then also against Cleveland week 6. But, honestly, I don't have a problem with Juju. Like, he produces when he's given the ball to. This season he's averaging 8.2 yards per catch, and, I'm not really complaining about the guy. Like, he's been playing fairly fucking solid with what he's given. It's not his fault that Ben and Fichtner aren't getting the ball his way. Because the thing is that a lot of people don't understand is the way that the Steelers' offense is designed, it's not designed around a guy like Antonio Brown anymore. We don't have a dedicated number one. Any game, the ball can get to any guy. So any game, it could be James Washington's the number one, like he was a couple weeks ago when he made that fucking insane catch against triple coverage. Claypool, he can go ahead and ball out just like he did against the Eagles. Or Deontay Johnson go ahead and have a great game like he did yesterday against the Bengals, because he was one of the bright spots in yesterday's game. The Steelers don't have a dedicated number one because they spread the ball so much. But to say that Juju isn't consistent and Juju doesn't get it done when they get the ball to him, that's just false. Sure, he had a bad game yesterday, but also look at where some of those pass placements were. On the pass where Juju took that hit from Von Bell, that ball should have never been thrown, because Ben should have seen that safety crashing down, knew it wasn't a safe pass, and then he shouldn't have got that ball out to Juju. And I understand, like, you're a pro, you got to be able to make those plays, but at the end of the day, you can't blame him for that. And considering that that's only like his second bad game of the season out of a whole 15 so far, or 14, I don't get the outcry saying that he's like this horrible receiver and the Steelers need to let him walk. I'd take him over Deontay Johnson any day, and I'm a big Deontay supporter, but I would definitely take Juju over James Washington and Deontay any day. The next thing I want to touch on is the fact that I think what we're coming to terms with as Steelers fans now is the fact that Big Ben actually might be done as a Steeler, or at least like playing at a high level he may be done. I think Ben might have another year left in him, and we may luck out and be able to draft a quarterback, but I don't see Ben long term sticking around. Like, I don't see him beyond next year. Like, next year, last year of his contract, he'll play it out probably, but I don't see him coming back after this contract. He's going to retire after this, or he's going to go spend the twilight years of his career elsewhere. But I don't see the Steelers picking him back up after this contract's done, because the arm strength for Ben just isn't there. And, I was hopeful, even though the fact that he is like a 39-year-old quarterback at this point, and he just came off of major elbow surgery, and I had high hopes for him coming into this season. I'm not going to lie. I thought that he was looking good in the offseason workouts. He was looking good in his throwing form. But when you look at him play, he doesn't have the deep ball. His reads have been kind of off lately, and he's just not great at pass placement like he used to be. Like, he used to be able to just throw it on a dime, and it was ridiculous. But now it just feels like Ben's out there, and he's going through the motions, and, it's one of those things, like, we're getting to the point where we just have to accept it. We knew this was coming for a while. We knew that we weren't going to have Ben forever. But now that reality is sinking in, the fact that, we need to do something because it's not working with Ben anymore. And I think the sooner the organization comes to that realization, the sooner we're in a better place as far as where our offense is at. Another thing that I want to point out is the fact that our offensive line play has been horrible, both in pass protection and run protection, because on the run, like, they're able to just tee off on Benny Snell and James Conner, and it's ridiculous. Like, both are averaging barely, like, 4 yards a carry. And it's just not sustainable at this point. And then if you look at last night's game against Cincinnati, like, Alejandro Villanueva, he looked like a fucking turnstile out there. Like, people were just teeing off on Ben and getting pressure on Ben because Villanueva could not get a block to save his life. And I'm starting to think, like, a majority of that offensive line just we need younger guys in there. Kevin Dotson, I'm willing to give him a break because he is a young guy, got thrown in this year because of injuries and all that. Like, it is what it is. But at the same time, guys like DeCastro and Villanueva can't be making mistakes like that with their age and the fact that they are veterans and anchors of this team. If you're not going to perform, like, honestly, at this point, like, we need to look towards the future and figure out who's going to fill that role. Because if you're not playing up to the level, why would we keep you around? And on the topic of our running game, that is one of the main problems that I've noticed this year, is the fact that we have next to no running game. Like, Ben is just out here slinging the ball, like, every game, and, like, sure, like, that's great, like, we have the receivers for it, and we definitely have the quarterback that can get the ball there when he needs to half the time, and, you know, we definitely have the offense that can do it, but it's the fact that, you know, linebackers, they don't gotta respect the run game. Like, even if, like, we go ahead and fake, like, play action or something, they don't gotta respect the run game. They just drop the linebackers into coverage, and there you go. Like, you just cover all the passing lanes against Pittsburgh, and then you're fine. But our running backs get no respect from the rest of the league because they're not that dominant. Like, a guy like Benny Snell could be really good if we actually had the upfront blocking. But unfortunately, we haven't had a solid rusher since Le'Veon left, and that fucking kills me because I absolutely love Le'Veon. I was saying to pay the man before the whole holdout and everything, and, you know, we didn't, and arguably the offense has suffered more than anything losing him. Like, I knew once we lost Antonio Brown that it was going to be a transition, but I didn't think it was going to be huge change. Losing Le'Veon was the one that scared me because Le'Veon was such a big part of the offense, because Le'Veon didn't just play into the running game where you had to respect him as a runner, you also had to respect him as another receiver. It was like having a second slot guy out there, and that was the real nice thing about Le'Veon. And it's the one thing I hated about him going to New York is the fact the Jets didn't use him like that. They didn't use him correctly to the point where he was just there and he wasn't really a factor on offense. And part of that's to do with the coaching change and all that. But it is what it is, man. Like, it's one of those things, like, as fans of the Steelers, we need to come to terms with the fact that, you know, we aren't the best team in the league right now. We have a really good defense. We have role players on offense that can do their thing. Like, Claypool, I think that years down the line, he's going to be one of those guys in the league. Like, I definitely think he's got the build and the physical traits for it. Like, I think he's definitely going to be a force to be reckoned with over the years. He's got a similar build to Calvin Johnson, runs a 4.4, 6'4". Like, the guy's everything you want in a red zone receiver, and I think the more that he works at it, the more dominant Claypool is going to become. And I like Juju as a locker room guy as far as mentoring the other receivers and all that. And he is a very, like, consistent guy to come through in the slot. So I have no problem keeping Juju around. And as long as Deontay Johnson keeps his drops under control and doesn't have games like he had the past 2 weeks previously, I do think that Deontay has a position on the outside opposite of Claypool. Like, I think the two of them are great on the outside. And then, unfortunately, I see the odd man out being James Washington. I'm not sure if I see the Steelers picking up his contract after he's done, unless they let Juju walk. If they let Juju walk, James is definitely coming back next season. That's not a question. But yeah, we definitely, like, we have the pieces there. Like, we could definitely make a run if we were able to get the offense together, and that's the main thing. The defense is good, but we have a similar problem to what they have with the Bears in Chicago, is the offense can't stay on the field long enough to give the defense a break, and then our defense... The offense ends up figuring them out, and they're able to exploit the defense because the defense is getting tired out there, and they're just getting worn down to the point that they're not as effective as they should be. And, you know, once we get the offense in order, then, like, we're in a good place. And I really like to say that, like, but I feel like as a Steelers fan, like, we should know this by now. it's either you get one or the other. You either get a really good offense or a really good defense. We never get both at the same time. If you look at the Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell Steelers, we had a really good offense, like one of the best in the league, but had a absolutely terrible defense. Our best players were William Gay and Ross Cockrell. Like, we did not have a good defense at the time. Then if you look back at the 2008 Steelers, we had an okay offense, and then we had a amazing defense. Like, it's one of those things we never get both at the same time. So, we got to work with what we have and try to make the best of it. I know we're in the playoffs regardless, but do I see us making a deep run? I don't really think so. I think unless we can get it together, a team like the Chiefs is going to walk all over us. And, we really need to go into next season considering what we're doing on the offensive line, at running back, and at quarterback. Because at the end of the day, without those, I don't see us making a deep run in the playoffs. Because I don't think at this point in his career, Ben can get it done. I don't think Villanueva can get it done. And maybe DeCastro is gone. But, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section down below. Are you guys just as pissed off about that loss as I am? Do you think the Steelers should have won? Let me know what you guys think. And, yeah. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. I know I haven't posted in forever, but really had to go ahead and discuss this because the Steelers have just been that polarizing of a team this last 2 weeks. I love the guys, but I also fucking hate them sometimes. But with all that said and done, this has been Steel Beer Sports signing off.